Hey Books to Buddies, it's Stephanie, your literary hype woman, back with another episode of Literary Hype. I'm really excited to get to introduce you to this debut author today. Her name is Anna Gracia. She's the author of Boys I Know. I got to meet Anna at YALLFest, and we became friends on social media, and so she agreed to talk to me about her upcoming book, and there's lots of giggling involved. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Anna Gracia.
Hello, my friend.
Hey, you. So cute. You have like lipstick on you. I'm like, I'm in a t-shirt. Like,
I mean, I literally just put on a makeup just for you because you're special to me.
I slapped on earrings and I was like, this will have to do.
This is why I love you. You're so much fun and so real, and I just love you. Also, side note, look at you with all your fancy stuff, your backgrounds.
Nas made it for me, please. I don't know how to do this.
Okay, that makes sense. Did he also make your jacket?
No, but it was his idea.
Okay. I mean, clearly, because he was the one walking around at YALLFest.
Yeah, because his looks good. And he got a jacket, and I got like this janky sweatshirt that's like, I'm pretty sure it's like 90% polyester. It feels hideous, and I'd probably set on fire. I hate it.
Aw, that's so sad though, because it looked fun.
My husband works in design, and he was like, why did you not consult me before making this? And I was like, I don't know, I just slapped it together on my phone. And he was like, but why did you do this? Like, if you want to
has your name, like, boom.
It was, you know what, we shall not talk of the sweatshirt.
Oh, that's so sad. I was so excited for you.
It's fine. It was just a waste of $25. It's fine.
Oh, well, that's not bad. I would have expected a lot more.
I mean, that's also because you were probably expecting cotton, as was I. But it's not.
Okay, well, valid point.
Luckily, now I'm in publishing where the money just rolls.
So we want to start this off by getting real about publishing.
I just really love how many people I know in real life that like think I'm like a millionaire now.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
Amazing.
Well, and it's like, it's such a misconception of publishing. Is like, oh, you get a book out, like you hear all these stories of these big 6-figure, 7-figure deals, but that's not the majority.
First of all, 6 figures is a long way from 7, just so we're clear.
Well, yeah.
Even that. But like, I'm not Jeff Bezos. Like, if I were a millionaire, do you think I'd be on like Facebook being like, hey guys, buy my book? I mean, I would just be chilling.
Yeah.
With my money. Silent and gone. I would be Suzanne Collinsing it, and you just wouldn't hear from me.
That is hilarious. Anyway, so I mean, and one of the struggles of publishing right now that you're dealing with is the supply chain issues affecting your release date. So how are you feeling with all of the chaos that's been going on with like changes and all that, getting ready to launch?
It's so funny because like the first time it got pushed, I was like, oh, who cares, right? And I mean, quite honestly, it getting pushed is not the end of the world. I'm not even getting pushed to like a new season. Like some people are getting pushed to 2023. 3 weeks is not a big deal. It's only annoying for me personally because like I tried to plan a family vacation, right? So I was like, perfect, 3 weeks after my release date, that's the perfect time to like chill out, leave, check out. And they're like, congratulations, now your release date is immediately smack in the middle of your week off. And I'm like, oh, that's inconvenient. Luckily, I did not plan anything yet because I've been slacking. And also bookstores apparently don't like to answer their emails. So I have nothing planned. So people keep asking me and I'm like, so on one hand, it kind of doesn't affect me because I'm like, well, I had literally 0 plans in place. I'm sure my pub team's like scrambling, but for me personally, I was like, comes out when it comes out. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, and that plays into another misconception of like everybody's handling everything for you. You've got a lot to do. The authors have a lot to do themselves on the marketing side of it.
I can't talk about it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, you know what? If I could go back in time, I'm like, maybe I should have gone and gotten that marketing degree in college because wow, so much marketing, so much personal marketing that no one tells you you have to do. I mean, technically you don't have to do it, but like, and everybody tells you like, even if you do it, you're not really moving the needle. It's like conceptually, I understand that, but you still feel like you have to, or else feel like you're just this bum that's like sitting around being like, bring me readers,
So, and I saw on social media you've been working on your elevator pitch for Boys I Know. Let's hear it.
Wait, did I say that?
You said you were working on it and that you would have to give it at that event that you just went to.
Oh, I did. I should stop posting things on social media because it's like I say it and then I like completely erase it from my mind. But okay. So, Boys I Know is a young adult contemporary coming of age story featuring an Asian American teen learning about sex and love in the Midwest.
Bravo.
Feels like it could be punchier, but you know what? We're like a year and a half in, and this is what I've got, so that's what we're going with.
I mean, sex and love in the Midwest is still pretty taboo a lot of the time.
I mean, but if anyone's like, ooh, sex in Iowa, that's a picker-upper.
You run into any like issues with that?
Not yet in terms of necessarily dealing with the sex part. Some people don't love the condoms specifically, which is funny to me. Like, it's like sex in the abstract, right? Like, even people I've met, sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, sex positive, that's great, that's really important. And then I'm like, here's the condom. And they're like, whoa. I'm like, well, I don't really know what you think happens during sex, but these are kind of a key component for a lot of people out there, not everyone, but I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people think that they're okay with it, but then it's like when forced with the actual visual reminder that their kids might be having sex, they panic a little bit.
I mean, and I do want to note that that is how we met, was you handing out condoms with your book cover on them.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking and becoming friends.
Well, see, I tell everybody, like, I use it as a great, like, for me, it's like a great screening method, because I'm like, if you balk at the condoms and you're like, oh God, no, then I'm like, you shouldn't read my book. And then it helps me weed out, right? Because I'm like, otherwise I don't want to waste my time like pitching my book to someone who's gonna like turn around and go to their local library and try to get it banned. Like, you are not my audience. But if you accept the condom, even like awkwardly, I'm like, great, give it a try. Like maybe when someone's not in your face, it's less awkward.
I thoroughly enjoyed reading this. Oh goodness, I don't even know where to start. Like, I have like color-coded tabs on this.
Okay, I'm always curious when people do that. What do the colors mean?
I mean, it depends on the book. So this one is like, blue is something I wanted to ask you about. Pink was something that was funny. Yellow was a really good quote, and I don't remember what purple was.
Look, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I don't see a lot of pink tabs in there, and I'm offended.
Okay, I thought of that like toward the end. I was like, what was it? It's one that, it was like one I like snorted, laughed at. He was addictive. I just wanted to be near him, stare at him, imagine running my hands across his chest, snort his hair product like drugs, all very normal stuff. Like, hilarious, because it's so like true to teenage behavior of like exactly. And
yeah,
I think that's what I loved about this, is it's real, how realistic it is. Even like, this character is Asian, I am not, but there's still a lot of things that I related to.
I'm really glad you clarified that. Thank you.
Yes, that was the purple tab. Was like, my parents' constant criticism affected me in ways I was only starting to fully understand. if I felt more loved and accepted at home, maybe I wouldn't have spent so much time trying to find it in other places. And like that, I was like, oh, that's good. I feel attacked, but also like, dang girl, you're so smart.
It's not me, it's June. She's the smart one.
Okay, June through you with your adult wisdom looking back through teenagers' eyes. So I guess, I mean, I've asked like no questions.
We're just vibing.
I mean, this is how it was when we met at Y'all Fest.
I've also realized that people either think the book is like really funny or like highly traumatizing. And I'm like, kind of two ends of the spectrum. So I think it like depends on what your experience as a teenager was, right? Like you're either
really
like,
does.
Wow, this is really upsetting, or it's like, woo, this is so fun.
Well, yeah, and it's like that's it goes back to that realism. So I guess talk about your inspiration for this book.
So basically, I started writing this in 2016, like in the lead up to the election. So, you know, there was all that debate. I mean, now it seems silly because I'm like, do you remember when there was that debate about defunding Planned Parenthood? And it's like, now we're sitting here with no Roe v. Wade. But quaint little me 6 years ago was like, we must defend it. And so I was freelancing articles at the time. And so it was like all this fervor over Planned Parenthood and blah, blah, blah. And they're, you know, this terrible organization, whatever. And so I ended up writing this article and talking about the importance of like reproductive access and contraception for teens specifically. And I couldn't get it picked up anywhere. And probably because they were like, you're not an expert. Why do we want to hear from you? I don't know. But I was like, okay, well, I think that this is really important. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm also kind of tired of making $100 an article. The freelance world out there, kids, it's rough. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a book. Like, this feels like it could be a book. So I was like, you know what? This is like something, because look, when I think about when I was a teen and all the people that I knew and what people were doing and the problems that they had and all that, like, these are very common experiences. At least they were like in my world, right? So people having sex, people having pregnancy scares, needing emergency contraception, or even like an abortion, like all of those things were happening. And like this constant like societal pressure to essentially base your worth on your sexual currency. And so I really wanted to kind of explore that within the book. And so that's kind of like where the idea came from, is I was like, I really want to explore this, but one of the key things I wanted to show is that something like taking Plan B is really freaking common. It's really common, and like I think a lot more common than probably most adults think of or know. And so I just really wanted to put it in there and highlight and show that this is like a totally normal thing. It's not a big deal. You know, I'm sure I'm going to get roasted from some people by that, but it's not, you know, like mistakes happen, and that's there to help you undo anything, you know, major damage. And so you should take advantage of it and not feel bad about it.
With June's story and what's going on in the world now, how timely is it that this is about to come out with everything that's going on in the world right now?
I mean, like 50% of me is like, seems like it's going to get banned. And then the other 50% of me is like, yes, go full throttle, like spray this everywhere. I mean, I think it's super timely. I think it's important. And I mean, because let's be honest, like they're coming for Plan B next, you know, like it's not going to stop at abortion. They're going to come for emergency contraceptives. They're going to come for regular contraceptives. They're coming for everything, you know? And so I think it is really important, because I'm hoping that, you know, like I'm really hoping that this next generation of kids is like, they're not going to internalize that same like stigma and shame that, listen, I actually have no idea how old you are. I assume everyone's my age, so don't take offense to this. But like, I feel like, fine, my generation, like, I just feel like sex wasn't as much like talked about, and it was much more shut down. At least it was in my area. It definitely is in the Asian American community. And so I would love to just make it more mainstream where people can at least talk about it, because how are you going to fight back against it and like fight for your rights if you can't even say the word?
So on the flip side of June and her relationships with the boys, who, in my opinion, are all trash. Boys are trash. Teenage boys are trash. Just, it is what it is. It also really dives into relationship with her parents and her sister. So there's a lot of Asian stereotypes with like Asian parents. How did you draw that line between being realistic and avoiding the stereotypes?
I don't know that I avoided stereotypes at all, to be honest. And it was a little bit of a concern, but I always think like you have to be true to your own story. And so I was like, this is the story that I set out to tell. I'm like, I think it's like, in my opinion, I think when you are writing your own culture, you are allowed to decide what kind of representation you want to have. And listen, sometimes it is stereotypical, but you know what? My parents were stereotypical. So like, I just I don't believe that you should have to change the narrative simply to fit some like greater agenda. And I also think that a lot of the pressure was relieved from that because there are other stories that have come before me, and so I didn't feel like, wow, I'm the first. Like, I think if you're the first of something, there's a lot of pressure riding on that to make sure you've got like good representation or this or that. But I guess I felt comfortable, like, of course, we need more Asian representation. I would love to see more Taiwanese specifically representation, but I'm definitely not at all the first. And so that really helps because I'm like, well, if you don't like it here are all these other stories that you can read. Mine doesn't have to be perfect. And, in fact, like the whole point of the story is kind of like to be this gigantic mess. So I don't know that I avoided stereotypes at all. But I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I also think like stereotypes come from a grain of truth. I mean, I have so many friends who have lived this same experience that I'm like, if someone wants to come at me and be like, that's a stereotype, I'm gonna be like, well, then I guess my life is a stereotype. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
How much of your life plays into this story?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not read the disclaimer at the beginning? All people, situations, and characters, coincidental, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, that was going to be my next question, was because I loved your author's note like a lot.
Oh, thanks.
That's the one that got the blue tab.
Woo! But have you seen the Joy Luck Club?
No, but I have the book. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Long TBRs. It's a struggle.
You could just watch the movie.
Okay, fine. I can.
I know. I mean, I know. Am I allowed to say that like around book people? But like honestly, sometimes I'm like, just watch the movie, man. Sometimes the movie's better.
Oh, but so is the movie better in Joy Luck Club?
You know what? I don't know because I watched the movie before I read the book. And I watched the movie so young and I had seen it so many times by the time I read the book. I don't think you can, reading the book after watching the movie is always like a really hard thing. So I don't know. I'm very attached to the movie.
You have this note of like only being only half Asian, and then like there's no percentage or threshold or visual requirement for someone to be considered Asian. And if you're like me, you're mixed, you are valid as you are. How important was it to you to be able to be that like kind of a voice for a kind of underrepresented part of the Asian culture in fiction?
I just put it in there because I felt like I've been told a number of times that I am like not Asian enough. People love to tell me that I'm not Asian enough, I don't know. So I was like, listen, I'm just going to put that out there in the hopes that somebody out there maybe will like read it and be like, hey, yeah, man. Right. Because I feel like it took me a long time to come to terms with it and like feel good about my identity. I don't know that I'm a voice on the horizon for the masses, like, I don't know, man. I just put it in there, I guess. I don't know, maybe for myself.
I mean, and that goes into one thing I did want to talk about that I almost forgot about. So thank you for that reminder. The way that June handles the microaggressions. Like, I saw some comments online that were like, that did not understand. And they were like, it didn't bother her. And then all of a sudden it does. It's like, no, that you're missing the point here. I guess talk about the process of how you handled writing about the microaggressions and like the importance of readers getting to see that kind of what it does to the person that is hearing them.
But I feel like the best way to explain it is it's sort of like when you are the only minority in the room, it's like, it's so, I feel like people don't understand how much it costs you to be the one to speak up. It gets really tiring. It can be really ostracizing. And I think especially as a teen, I mean, a lot of teenagehood is just wanting to fit in. And so if these things are happening, I think oftentimes it's a lot easier to go, you know what? I'm going to laugh with them, or I'm not going to laugh at all. Or I'm just going to go along because it's not that big of a deal. And it's like, on one hand, it's not that big of a deal, right? They're just words. They're not calling you racial stuff. In your head, it's like, you're always like, there's something worse. Of course, there's always something worse, you know? But I just kind of wanted to show like, there's just that discomfort of like, it always being on the person of color to be the person to speak up. But yeah, and so I think when I was writing the book, I just really wanted to show like that it's so common, and just that discomfort of like, God, I don't want to have to say anything, to the point where I think people start to internalize it as it's not a big deal. And so I really wanted to put her friend Liz in there as this foil to be like, you should say something, you should say something. Because I think it's really easy, especially people that grow up in places where there is more diversity, to be like, hey, everyone should be speaking up. And it's like, well, but no one else is. So you're putting it on your friends of color to like educate everyone else around you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, people haven't read the book, but like, right, like Liz could have said something, and instead she was like, hey, June, you should say something because it's about you, right? Like, that's actually not being an ally. So that's my spiel.
I appreciate your spiel, and that hopefully it will help someone get a better grasp on microaggressions and how really damaging they can be and annoying. Because it was annoying me for June reading. It's just like, China.
Oh yeah, that was the really, like, my editor and I went back and forth on that one pretty heavily, because she was like, it's like too racist, people are gonna freak out. And I was like, but I think that they need to understand that this is actually a pretty normal occurrence. And I'm not saying like, oh, every Asian American teen would be fine with it, but I just wanted to show like, when you are so conditioned to it, that it's like, I think oftentimes it doesn't even faze you, you know? Or it's like, I don't know, and I can't speak for other Asian people, but I do think sometimes there is a little bit like in the Asian community of feeling like, well, the racism towards us is more positive, right? Like, I think whether it's among Asian people themselves or other white people, like, is it really racism if it's nice, right? We're saying you're smarter. We're saying you get good grades. We're saying you're beautiful because of your eyes or whatever. Like, how racist can that be? And I kind of wanted to show like, well, you know, that starts to affect people. And then they kind of think, well, it's no big deal because, you know, he's saying it in a way because he likes her, not to be like racist about it, right? He's not like, what do you get when you throw a silverware down the stairs? Kind of like, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So I think it can be easy if you grow up in that environment and you are conditioned to accept all of that, to be like, oh yeah, he doesn't mean anything by it. Like, to me, it seemed perfectly natural. Like, this makes sense that she would buy into that.
Teenagers let a lot slide just to fit in.
One,
I mean, that is like kind of
like to.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, kind of one of the hearts of the story is just trying to fit in and forcing yourself to fit in places and finding where you fit in.
I mean, some of us are still doing it in adulthood, so
it's like, children, there's some wisdom for you. Don't be stupid.
Don't do anything in this book.
What was your favorite part of the writing process?
Ooh. Like, is this a multiple choice or?
It was not a multiple choice question.
Fine, my favorite part of writing it was being done. Do you like that answer?
Yes, I love it. Because that is true. That is true.
Yeah, the best part of writing is having written and being like, I already did that, so I don't need to do it again. But then no one tells you, and then you finish your book and then they're like, you have to start over from a blank page. And you're like, this is bullshit. And I know that no one needs to tell you that that's going to happen, but they should. because it's
I mean, especially for you, because you're working on a new book, correct?
I am.
I heard something about that. You want to talk about that too?
Yeah, it's an adult book, so that's exciting. I had to learn how to write sex scenes, which let me tell you is so much harder than you think.
Well, yeah, because it was like, I mean, it's YA, so Boys I Know is YA, so it's not
right.
very
Like
descriptive.
but it's not like a sexy sex scene.
Yes.
Like I try to explain to people, like there's sex, but it's not something you want to read. I mean, you will read it, but you're not like, ooh, sex with teens. You're like, oh God, why? You know,
Teenagers.
Yeah, so this next one's an adult. It's like an adult women's fiction kind of rom-com about a girl who is in college, who is chasing her ex-boyfriend basically to try to win him back by taking a beach vacation with her girlfriends to Cancun, but her friends don't know that he is there.
A little spying on the ex.
Just more mess, basically. I'm like, that's going to be my brand now, mess. It's just gonna be like me with like a little picture
mess.
Marie Kondo behind my head being like, I love mess.
Since this is literary hype, what books are you hyped about right now?
Ooh, let me tell you, I am in the middle of Portrait of a Thief by Grace Lee right now, and holy crap, it's so good.
I've heard good things about that. It's on my list.
It's very good. I mean, yeah. The heist stuff is cool. I mean, I think it's interesting because when I recommend books to other people, I don't know if they like the same parts as me. So I usually try to tell them what it is that I like about it, because then people can kind of judge. So like, so far, I'm not that far into Grace's book, but what I love about it is there's 5 different characters and you get all 5 perspectives, and they are all Asian Americans, but they all come from a different point of view. So they all come from like a different part of the country, and they come from a different experience. And so like, I just feel like you really get such a wide expanse. Like, I'm going to go back to the Joy Luck Club. I think the reason I like was so hyped about the Joy Luck Club is it's like, you have so many Asians to choose from. Like my husband makes fun of me because anytime we watch any kind of like reality competition show, like Top Chef, Project Runway, whatever, he's always like, you always cheer for the Asian person. And I'm like, well, of course I do. Like that's a given and that's standard. But like, when there's more than one, I'm like so hyped, because sometimes I'm like, listen, that contestant, not my favorite. Gina on America's Next Top Model, not great. Did I have to cheer for her? Of course I did. Cycle 5, please tell me you've seen America's Next Top Model. God dang it. We're not the same age. I guarantee you. Okay. But
okay, now we got to figure this out. How old do you think I am?
I'm not answering that. I'm not answering. My point is, you always have to cheer for the Asian person, or at least I do. And so like when you have multiple characters, I'm always like, hell yeah, right? Like Celeste Ng, bring it on. Like everybody, like I love it. So that's what I love most about it, is the fact that there are 5 Asian American people to choose from. And then it's like, I can get like so many ranges of experiences, and then I can like pick one without feeling guilty about it and being like, oh, I should be picking the Asian kid.
Like, this is just full on shenanigans and I'm here for it.
Full on shenanigans. Like no one can ever put me on a panel. They'll be like, for the love of God, shut her up. And I'll be like,
are you going to do anything at Y'all Fest this year?
I don't know.
You're supposed to say, absolutely, I'm going to be there and I'm going to dominate and take over the stage whether they like it or not.
Oh, you have to be invited. Everyone's
and now you have a book, and you have a book instead of just condoms now.
That's true. Yeah, I know. But we'll see. We shall see what my November shape.
We need to put this out into the universe.
Put it out into the universe. I would love to go back to Y'all Fest.
I want to see you in the Y'all Fest SmackDown.
Powers that be. Oh, girl, you don't know how competitive I can get. Like honestly, like sometimes I've had to like step away from board games because I'm like, you know what? I don't think y'all are ready for this. It can get awkward. I really like to win.
But it has been an absolute pleasure.
Yay! I'm so glad that I got to talk to you.
Yes, this was so much fun. We need to hang out for reals again soon, because it's been too long.
Well, that manifested.
Y'all Fest. You gotta say it louder. You gotta like really project. I can hear you.
It.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much for doing this. You were so much fun. Can't wait to see you again.
Okay, bye.
I hope you had as much fun hearing from Anna as I did, and I hope you check out her book, Boys I Know. You can find links to buy the book down below. You can also find links to find her on social media, give her a follow, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends.